I've realized every single diet book that tells you what to eat is based on what that particular author feels best eating. So you have permission to ignore every dietary recommendation from people outside of yourself and listen to what makes you feel your best. I feel better with a whole food, plant-based way of eating, lots of beans, whole grains. I feel great that way. I realized that too much meat, eggs, and dairy makes me feel sluggish. But Sherry, on the other hand, she doesn't feel full and satisfied unless she has plenty of meat. She needs meat protein. It makes me go to sleep. I need, beans and that sort of thing. And it's realizing, thanks to bioindividuality, you're not all the same. So if someone tells you you must eat, this much meat every day and you have to force your body to get this much protein or whatever, you don't have to listen to that because, you can trust how you feel. If you feel strong and you have endurance and energy and you're able to build muscle through activity and you feel amazing and you're sleeping well, that's what you need to know. If you start feeling worse and worse and worse over time and you're sluggish, that's not a good sign. You can trust yourself.
Hey, with the plethora of podcasts out there, I want to start by thanking you for choosing me. This pod is for the individual who is curious about moving through life differently. Each week, I interview expert guests who may change your perspective on your relationships, your finances, and your health. And if you change, the world will change too. All from tuning in. Enjoy the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to I Think I Can podcast. And today we have an earlier guest back on the show. This is Jen Stevens, the author of, 3 different well-known books now, and you're working on one more. Is that correct, Jen?
Yeah, I've written 4 books that are out there. 2 were self-published, 2 have been traditionally published. And then I have a 3rd traditionally published book that's coming out. It's available for pre-order now. And it's called 28-Day Fast Start Day by Day, the ultimate guide to starting or restarting your intermittent fasting lifestyle so it sticks.
Yes. Okay, we're going to get into that one. But for those of you who have been living in a cave and don't know Jen is is all about intermittent fasting and how it's changed her life. I think, first of all, maybe you began it just because you wanted to, like so many women out there, want to lose some weight, want to control their weight, but then once you began it, you realized all the health benefits and beyond health benefits, I would say, that came with it. Would you agree, Jen?
Absolutely. I came to intermittent fasting for the weight loss, and I stick around for the health benefits. And also, I can't lie, I stick around because it makes maintaining my 80 plus pound weight loss pretty effortlessly. I lost 80 pounds 2014 to 2015. And I've been maintaining it ever since. I'm 54 now. I've been through menopause since then. And, I feel like intermittent fasting is keeping me youthful, helping me maintain the loss, like I said. And it's impacting my health in so many positive ways that I would never stop doing it.
Okay. Well, that we will talk about again, and why, just not to get up, give up, I would say. Okay. So for those who need a little refresher on what intermittent fasting is and what clean fasting is, and what are the 2 main ways that you see most women in your world fasting, let's start there.
Okay. Well, intermittent fasting is, just the idea that we do not actually need to eat from the moment our feet hit the floor in the morning till our head hits the pillow at night. It is actually not good for us to be in a fed state that never ends other than when we are sleeping. So the idea is that we're going to give our bodies periods of digestive rest. We're not always going to be putting more in. We need our bodies to have time to rest and digest and clean things up. And, the 8 hours you're sleeping is just not enough. Think about driving your car. If you drove your car, with the engine always revved up constantly, it's going to wear your car out pretty fast,
Mm-hmm.
So we want our bodies to be a little more managed gently as well. So we fast, we feast, we repeat, and our body gets that rest. So one of the most popular ways to structure your day is something called time restricted eating, also called the eating window approach. And that's the approach that I use. I have eaten every day since 2016. And so, people think of fasting and they think it's all about not eating and restriction. And, you imagine people like, suffering, and it sounds hard. But, with time restricted eating, you just have a period of the day every day where you eat. And technically, every single person alive already does that. You already have a period of the day when you're not eating, and a period of the day when you are eating, right? No matter who you are, you do. So when you decide to try intermittent fasting or time restricted eating, you just take, let's imagine you're eating, from the time you wake up till the time you go to bed, you just shrink that. You shrink it and you shift it and you find the part of the day where it feels best for you to eat. For me, I am someone who feels best when I don't eat until late to mid-afternoon. And then I stop eating. Generally, I stop eating a few hours before bedtime because I've had enough. Mm-hmm. And then I go to bed. And the next day I wake up, like right now we're recording this. It's 10 something in the morning and I'm still in the fasted state. I'm drinking my black coffee. I feel fantastic. You don't get hangry.
No.
You feel good. But there are other styles of doing intermittent fasting. I mentioned that I've eaten every day since 2016. Well, did I not eat every day prior to 2016? Well, there's some styles of intermittent fasting where you might not eat every day, like alternate day fasting, where you have a day where you fast and then a day that you eat, and then a day that you fast and then a day that you eat. And that might sound really extreme, but it's a very well-researched approach to intermittent fasting. And so you might fast for 36 hours, which really just is 2 overnight periods. And then the next day, you have the whole day to eat how you would like to eat. Krista Veraday did a great deal of research on alternate day fasting. And she found it is a great way to lose fat, obviously, on the day that you're not eating. And then also the day where you have, the quote, normal eating, the day that you're eating, we call that your up day. That's great for the metabolic boost. So we have the down day, which is the fast day where you're not eating, or you can have a 500 calorie meal. In her research on alternate daily fasting, she found that was a great way to structure it. So on the down day, you fast, you have a 500 calorie meal, fast again, and the next day is an up day where you're strategically boosting your metabolic rate by eating more that day. So that balance is what's really, really important. We've all heard of, the idea of homeostasis or our body getting used to something. You may have heard the phrase, keep your body guessing.
Yeah.
We've heard that before. And so one thing about our bodies is if we kept everything exactly the same from day to day, identical, like if you always got up and had the exact same, this is what you ate every single day, your body's going to adapt to that. And so alternate daily fasting is great for people who want to shake things up. But as I said, I've eaten every day since 2016. I did do some alternate day fasting. I think it helped with my metabolism for a while back in there. And if you choose the 500 calorie down day option of ADF, you do get to still eat every day. But, every day I'm not trying to lose weight. I'm not trying to boost my metabolism. I'm not trying to burn fat. I just live my life. I wake up, I eat when I'm ready to eat, when it feels right to eat. I listen to my body. I stop when I've had enough. So if someone is like, okay, now that's a lot of stuff, I don't know where to begin. The good news is in my book, Fast, Feast, Repeat, I have something called the 28-day fast start. And in that, you are going to learn how to teach your body to be metabolically flexible, which means that your body's going to learn how to adapt to fat burning fat for fuel. And you're not going to start with 36-hour fasts. You're not going to
No.
start with waiting until 2 o'clock to open your eating window. You're going to give your body time to adapt and adjust. I think about it like a couch to 5K program. If someone wanted to run a 5K, but you've been pretty sedentary, you don't get off the couch on day one and run a 5K. You have to work up to it. And so when you're considering starting an intermittent fasting lifestyle, that's what you want to do as well. You're going to start off wherever you are right now, and then you're gradually going to build up, that fasting muscle. We like to think of it as, and you're going to teach your body to do it. It's not going to be all easy at first because your body doesn't, how to tap into your fat stores for fuel very well. If you've been eating from, breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner, another snack, your body has gotten used to running itself on what you're putting in. And so you have to teach your body, hey, there's a lot of fuel on this body to tap into. Your body has to learn how to do that and build up those fat burning, mechanisms to be able to tap into that stored fat for fuel. But you become metabolically flexible, which I think is how we're designed to be. If you go back in time to, thousands of years ago, we did not have a grocery store on the corner. People had to be able to hunt and gather when they were hungry. You had to be able to run your body without fuel that was coming in constantly, because you didn't know when you would have a kill if you were a hunter, or when you would find some food to gather if you were looking for something. So your body had to be able to work in all the different states you might encounter. So our bodies are designed to be metabolically flexible, and intermittent fasting can help you get back into that. Now, that was a lot of information I just gave you all at once.
Okay, so I do have a question though. You know how you said about like, we need to sort of wake up our metabolism again. If we keep on doing the same thing over and over, it's our body in a sense can
adapt.
Can adapt and get lazy. Yeah. So how does that work then? If someone chooses to do time restricted feeding, which is that window that you spoke about, and they tend to be somebody that opens their window around dinner time each night and closes it around the same time every night, because we tend to want to go to bed at a certain time every night, and we tend to want to eat at a certain time every night due to the family schedule or something like that. Is that not the greatest thing then? Because we're kind of sticking to the same old window of eating.
Well, it all depends on what your goals are. Okay. So let's imagine that there's someone who needs to lose, I'm just going to pick a number, 80 pounds, like me. Maybe you want to lose 80 pounds, and you're doing time restricted eating. Your weight is coming off. You're losing at the rate of about a pound a week, which is normal. We're not going to, like the tabloids say, you're not going to lose 30 pounds by, by Thanksgiving, right? Or whenever. But you might lose 30 pounds by Thanksgiving if you're 30 weeks away from Thanksgiving, but we're not going to lose weight like the tabloids say. A pound a week is really about a good speed for weight loss. And when you first start intermittent fasting, by the way, you might not lose any weight for the first 4 weeks while your body's adapting. So that's something to keep in mind. I have that in the 28-day fast start to get your expectations ready. But let's imagine, like I said, you're somebody who needs to lose 80 pounds. You're doing time restricted eating. You have found that you like to have, it feels really good to wait till you get home from work, open your eating window, and maybe your eating window ends up being like 2 hours long and you're satisfied, then you close your window. What might happen? Well, you may find that works really, really well for weight loss for you for a while, and you're losing at a really steady pace. Maybe at the beginning, you're losing even faster than a pound a week, because that's a whole lot less food than you used to eat. And then over time, that starts to slow, and then it starts to slow more. And I recommend people weigh daily, and then once a week, calculate your weekly average so you know what your trend is doing. But let's imagine your trend is actually not going down. You're plateaued, and week after week, you're just stuck. But maybe you lost 25 pounds of the 80 you wanted to lose, and now you're stuck. So that is when you might think, okay, I have reached homeostasis with what I'm doing right now. My body has adapted to this 2 hour window. And so maybe I'm happy with this 25-pound weight loss. This is where I want to be, but maybe I really would like to lose some more. So that's when you can start being strategic with alternate daily fasting. Your body needs a little something to get the boost going again.
Okay.
So if someone had been using a 2-hour eating window day after day after day after day, and now they're stuck, alternate day fasting is really going to be pretty simple at that point, because your body is already metabolically flexible. You're adapted to waiting and having a 2-hour eating window. You could choose to fast through that, not eat at all until the next day and have the up day. Or you could say, I'm used to having a really short window. I'm just going to have a 500 calorie down day. In my normal short window, I'm going to have 500 calories. And then the next day is an up day. Now, believe it or not, the hardest part of alternate day fasting is not the fasting day or the down day. The hardest part is the up day, because, if someone's been used to waiting till they get home from work, and if you've been trained with the whole idea of calories in, calories out, and you want to lose weight, you need to diet, you need to eat less, move more, then you're going to have a really hard time on the up day eating sufficiently to have that metabolic boost. On the research that they did with alternate day fasting, they actually instructed the participants to eat 125% of their daily caloric needs on up days. And most successful alternate day fasters eat in about an 8 to 12 hour period over the up day. And so that means you're going to be, starting with breakfast, and you might not be used to that, but that's where the metabolic boost comes in. And you might see, if you're that person who's been having a 2-hour window for months and months and months, now you're plateaued, you might actually see a tiny bit of weight gain for the first couple of weeks of going to alternate day fasting, as your body's like, wait, we got more food coming in. But our bodies are amazing. And, the whole idea that we were given, eat more food to boost your metabolic rate. You need to eat 6 small meals a day because it boosts your metabolic rate. That's actually true, but also flawed. Eating more food does boost metabolic rate, but if you're eating more food than your body needs, it's got to store it, right? So the whole idea of eating more food to boost your metabolic rate is based on the truth, but you're not like burning more than you're eating, if that makes sense. So in the whole framework of alternate day fasting, the fat loss doesn't happen on the up day. That's the metabolic boost day. The fat loss happens on the down day, and then the up day is where the metabolic boost happens that keeps your body from tapping into your fat stores. So, I am not a believer in just the math of calories in, calories out, because of the way our body can adapt to things, right? If anyone who's tried to do a low calorie diet, like maybe you're eating 1,200 calories a day, every single day, day after day after day after day, you know how that turns out. It gets harder and harder over time. You are starving. Your body can't keep up with that. Fasting is super different for many reasons that too much for me to go into right now. But you still, even with intermittent fasting, you still have to have a reason for your body to tap into your fat stores. And so you have to give your body a chance to do that. And so that's where, alternate day fasting is so powerful. But if you're happy, like me, I've eaten every day, like I said, since 2016, I have a pretty similar eating window most of the time. If my body is in homeostasis, that's actually the goal. I don't want to lose more weight. I don't want to gain weight. I want to maintain right where I am. So your body adapting to what you're doing is only a problem if you don't like where you are. So if you like where you are and you feel really, really good there, then it doesn't matter. It's only if you don't like where you are, or if you don't like what you're doing, that you're going to need to change it. Because our goal is to find a lifestyle where we feel good in our body and we feel good doing what it takes to stay in the body that we feel good in. So, we've all white knuckled those terrible diets that we hated every moment of. And that intermittent fasting is the complete opposite of that. I don't white knuckle it. I feel great. I eat delicious foods every day. My body is happy. The pants I'm wearing right this minute, I bought them in, I don't know, I might have bought these in 2016. Still fit.
Yeah. And like, it's interesting as you were speaking to, like, I think some people could argue that your relationship with food as an intermittent faster is poor. But I bet, well, But I bet,
Oh.
but you tell us why your relationship with food is actually very good due
Yeah,
to.
the idea that you do intermittent fasting because you have a poor relationship with food is the exact opposite. I think if you look at people, and I've talked to now, 300 and something
Yeah.
intermittent fasters on my podcast, Intermittent Fasting Stories, and every single one of them
Mm-hmm.
shares how their relationship with food has gotten better. And so, I
Yeah.
think you have to listen to people who've been through it, and the people who think that it might be because you have a bad relationship with food really haven't done intermittent fasting and they don't understand it. When you haven't tried something, you're definitely going to be coming from
Mm-hmm.
your own assumptions about it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I can tell you when I weighed 210 pounds and I was struggling every single day, I had a really bad relationship with food because I couldn't figure out why am I, gaining so much weight? Why am I obese? Why am I struggling with this? I had a
Because
doctorate in gifted education. I should be able to figure this out, right?
yeah, but Jen, what do you think your calories? This is interesting. Like what it wasn't like you were pounding like the burgers and Doritos, during that time either, I'm sure.
Maybe,
I
I
mean,
mean, I was eating the standard American diet. I went
yeah.
through periods of time. Maybe I was pounding burgers and
Okay.
Doritos at that
Okay.
time
Okay.
because I actually, there was a period of time from 2012 to 2014 when I kind of gave up. I had read every single diet book. I had done
Mm,
everything from low carb to low fat to clean eating to this to that. If a diet book was out about, I tried to give up grains and wheat and this, and I did it all. And I never found the magical food that allowed
mm,
me to eat all day long and feel amazing and lose weight. Never. I never found that because turns out the paradigm was wrong. It's the eating all the time that was
mm,
the problem. And so, I would at that point from 2012 to 2014, I was like, this shouldn't be so hard. I quit. And so I read the mindful eating books, the intuitive eating books, and all of those books teach you to stop, labeling food as good or bad
mhm,
and what you should and shouldn't eat. Instead, you just eat whatever sounds good to you at the moment. You ask yourself, am I hungry? If the answer is yes, you eat. You stop when you've had enough. But here's the problem with that. When I asked myself, am I hungry? The answer was always yes.
mm.
And I was not in tune with my hunger and satiety signals.
Right.
And when I said, what do I want to eat? The answer might be a Big Mac with fries.
Mhm,
I had such a terrible relationship with food at that
mhm,
time that I could not hear what my body was telling me.
mhm,
And again, like I said, am I hungry? The answer was yes, always when I
mhm,
asked myself that. And so, I intuitively ate my way up to 210 pounds. And it's only through intermittent fasting that I have finally gotten back in touch with my hunger and satiety signals.
mhm,
If it was 11 in the morning and my body sent me really, really strong, you need to eat right now messages. Maybe I felt shaky or nauseous or weird or not good. I would
mhm.
eat. I
Yeah.
wouldn't be like, no, it's not time to eat. I
Mhm.
understand when my body needs to eat. And
Yeah.
I understand when I'm just fine. And, so many of the things we think, are cues to eat are just because, oh, that looks good,
Mhm.
and so I also nourish my body completely differently now. I've actually figured out, surprise, surprise, the burgers and the fries and the Doritos do not make me feel my best. And
Exactly.
when I eat
Exactly.
them, I do not feel satiety because I have learned over time that our bodies do not count calories. Our bodies count nutrients. And so when you think about this modern world of ultra processed foods and you look around at people around you, or maybe even look in the mirror at yourself, you might see someone who's obese like me when I was 210 pounds. I was very much overfed and undernourished.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
now that I can listen to my body, I'm craving completely different things. Last night for dinner, we had bean burritos, black beans. I made a mango slaw. It was mango and cabbage and chimichurri sauce, and it had almonds in there in the slaw,
Mhm.
and rice with some chimichurri in it. It was a
Mhm.
delicious and satisfying meal. So many different plants in that meal. I felt so good
Mhm.
after I ate, and I
Mhm.
was well nourished and satisfied. And
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not how I would have eaten back in 2014.
No, and like, and it's normal and good to feel some hunger, right? Like,
Mhm.
I understand, like just for the listeners too, I've been doing it now for a couple of months, and you're right. Like, otherwise I wasn't really ever feeling hunger, and or the whole, like, in terms of building your relationship with food too, or appreciative of the
Yes.
food, like,
Yeah.
much more mindful now. And this takes time too, because, and I know you speak about this in, when you do interview people on your intermittent fasting stories podcast, is like, it's like, at first you want to inhale the food, right? But then over time, you see the importance of slowing down, because first of all, like, yeah, again, you have to read your body and know when you're 80% full, so you don't feel stuffed, because no one likes that at all. And so, yeah, it's a bit of a process, but once you're, on the road, it feels great. It really
Yep. And
does.
you're not gonna be able to hear your hunger and satiety signals, at first.
No.
That's what the 28-day fast start's all about. You're going to, like, remember I talked earlier about your body is not yet great at tapping into your fat stores. So while you're fasting in the early days, when your body's learning how to do it, you
Mhm.
might feel hangry and
Mhm.
starving and
Mhm.
terrible.
Mhm.
And when you open your eating window, you're stuffing in the food because your body has not been well fueled. But
Mhm.
once that metabolic switch is flipped, and your
Mhm.
body is now like, okay, I see there's plenty of fuel. Okay, we're
Mhm.
fine. We've got some
Mhm.
glycogen in our liver. We can use
Right.
that. Or maybe we can flip over into fat burning when we need to. That's okay too. And your body has no longer got
Mhm.
that panicked feeling. You are well fueled during the fast because we've got
Mhm.
plenty of energy stored in our bodies, right? We
Mhm.
do. And
Mhm.
so you don't have that same panic feeling when you open your window. You don't need to overeat because your body is well fueled. And so Dr. Burt Hearing came up with a brilliant term called appetite correction. It was maybe around, when did his book come
Mhm.
out? 2017? I'm not sure. But
Yeah.
his book, maybe 2016, his book was called Appetite Correction. And he's someone who popularized a 19-5 daily eating window approach, because that's what he does. He does a
Mm.
19-5. So he wrote a book about 19-5 called the Fast Five Diet. And that's actually where I really got my start with doing a daily eating window. But
Mm.
when he wrote the book Appetite Correction, the goal is to find a way of eating and living that allows you to be in touch with your hunger and satiety signals, so you're eating the right amount of food for your body. We have a lot of things working against us now. Look at the wild world. Look at all the animals who live out in nature, right? They somehow, a lion doesn't know how to count calories, but you're not going to see any overweight lions out in the wild. They know how much their body needs. They stop when they've had enough. They eat. They go on. But contrast that with a house cat, that we've got at home,
Mm.
and we have one diabetic house cat, and the other one is really chubby too. And so, why
Yeah.
is that? Because we're feeding them foods that are not their natural foods. It's available all the time. They don't have to work hard to
Mm.
get it. The
Mhm.
ultra processed foods we feed our cats are just as bad as the ultra processed foods that humans are eating. And they also mess up our hunger and satiety signals. If we go back to real food, it's a lot easier to hear your body saying that's enough, versus with the ultra processed foods like Doritos that you mentioned earlier. Those are literally designed in a lab to circumvent all of our satiety signals and make us keep eating them. They literally research the flavor combinations and crunch and the profile that makes you not be able to just eat one. They do that on purpose. And then we blame ourselves for being so weak. And it's really such a vicious cycle. But we are meant to be able to listen to our bodies and know when we've had enough to eat. And you don't get that way overnight. And it takes time. That's also why I've gradually changed, what I eat, not because I felt like I had to or because I was following someone's prescriptive diet, but it was because I realized I feel better when I ate Brussels sprouts than when I had French fries. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
feeling good is a powerful motivator. So I am
Mm.
motivated now, in 2023, very differently than what I was motivated for in, 2014. I just wanted to get down to a size 6 and wear
Hmm.
clothes that I
Yeah.
could just feel good in. And that was what I wanted. Now, at 54, I want to age well. I want to be strong. I want to, be able to lift things for myself. I want to be healthy. I want to be, I want to feel good in my body. I don't want lifespan. I want health span. So I make my choices based on that these days.
Yeah, no, and it makes a lot of sense too. Like I even think about like people with anxiety and racing thoughts and things like that. Like what I tell them is, to sit in silence.
Yeah.
I mean, that's when we talk about meditation, when we talk about like going into nature. And to me, fasting from food is the same thing. You're teaching your body to listen to your body and not be controlled by the external environment and billboards and commercials and yeah, like I mean, I visited Europe a few times in the past couple of years, and I thought about that too. I mean, okay, when you talk about the lion and you don't see fat lions, I mean, yes, there is North American influence that's, I mean, infiltrating Europe right now. But honestly, there are, I mean, you can't even compare like
Mhm.
the amount of overweight people in Europe compared to North America. So it's just not even whatever a topic. But and I used to think like they're not fat, they wouldn't call it fasting, but I'll tell you, it very much is. Like, I mean, okay, so it was Italy for me, and I mean, they usually start with a very light breakfast, if anything. Maybe it's just a cappuccino, and then like I realized that the time between meals were like more like 5 to 7 or 8
Mhm.
hours. I mean, and I think that is one of the real differences is that, and like, and their day doesn't revolve around food, like
Right.
it's just like, it's something that you do with by like connecting with people and sharing and things like that. But you realize that yeah, people aren't walking around with snacks. They're not walking with food,
Right.
when they're sitting to have a coffee, they're sitting down with the coffee. There's no travel mugs in their cars, like there's no
Right. And
such
well, think
thing.
about Starbucks, right? You know,
Yes.
they're the cappuccino they might be having in Italy is
Oh,
like, and maybe,
exactly.
and then they
Yeah.
have it and they go, where at Starbucks, even the small is called a grande. I mean,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Or tall. It's called a tall. I don't even know. But
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you can tell I'm not going there and buy, like, I'm drinking my black coffee here at home in my mug and
Yeah.
anyway, but yeah, it's just completely different. And the if you go back even in America, back to a couple generations ago,
Yeah.
my grandmother had a china set that she got at one point, and the little coffee cups were tiny, and then it had like a little the formal pitchers that went with it for putting the coffee in the coffee pot that you would serve with the tray, and the
Yes.
little cream and sugar
Yeah.
containers were like this is
Yeah.
how much cream was for everybody,
Right.
like,
Right.
and
Yeah,
there was
exactly. There's no double doubles. Oh my God.
oh, no.
Yeah.
And so it was a completely different way of eating. And,
Yeah.
we actually were not, they weren't snacking. Snacking was
No.
not a thing. It wasn't,
No. No.
and like,
No.
yeah,
And
so that really changed a lot of things.
well, that too. And I was thinking even like earlier today, we just live a very different lifestyle right now. I mean, you and I, like, we're basically at our desks most of the day. We're not washing our clothes by hand. We're not, whatever, manually working the land. Like, I mean, it's just so different because I think some people would argue it's like, Well, in the 50s, I mean, all the men and women were nice and slim, and they ate 3 meals a day. Well,
They were
yeah,
small meals though, too. They did not eat
exactly.
giant meals. So if you go
Yeah.
back and and look at what they were eating, even in the earliest days of McDonald's, the burger was like the size you get in a Happy Meal, and that was like what the grown-ups ate, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
one. and,
Mm-hmm.
and
True.
so our
Yeah.
portion size has really changed. And
Yeah.
I would bet you the ingredients in those McDonald's meals from the 50s were really, really different as well, from the grain they used to make the bun to the oil they used to
Yes.
fry the fries. All of it was different. So
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So before we move on to why people have difficulty possibly maintaining an intermittent fasting lifestyle, is there some apps that you like using to help with your windows or
no,
no, okay,
I
thank you for
don't.
clearing that up.
I
Okay.
don't use any apps. Now, that being said, there was a time that I did, and it was early on. And I had I have a son, and he is an app developer. At this time, he was in college. In 2016, he was in college, and all of the fasting apps out there focused on the length of the fast. But I don't want to focus on the length of my fast. I find it's much easier to focus on the length of my eating window. So
Mm.
I said, make me an app that can focus on my eating window, because I want to keep to my eating window about 5 hours. I want that. I don't care how long I fasted, because a day has 24 hours. All days do. And
Yeah.
if my eating window is 5 hours, mathematically, that means I had 19 hours of fasting on either
Yeah.
side of it in every
Yeah.
24-hour period. It's impossible not to, because that's how math works with 24. So he made me an app, and he actually sold it for a while he was in college. And it was called Window, but then he sold it. He sold it when he graduated from college because he didn't have time to maintain it anymore.
Mm.
So unfortunately, that app has I don't care for what they did to it, because they dieted it up a little bit, and they
Mhm.
took out some of the things that I think were important. They changed some of the focus. And so it's also really expensive now. So
Mm.
unfortunately, I don't know of any app that
Okay.
allows you to track your eating window. And also, a lot of the apps, they track the fast, like I said, and there's a lot of benefit in that, but it can make you, I don't know, I think that it can really
Yeah.
be more difficult, because people start getting in their minds that I must fast for, if I'm not fasting for 19 hours straight, then
Yeah.
I'm failing or whatever. And then they get caught up in all of that. So if a fasting app helps you, that's good. But I want you to disconnect from some of the things they have in the app. Like sometimes, I haven't talked about the clean fast yet. Sometimes they have
Right.
recommendations that aren't really in line with the clean fast, and that can confuse you. And it can also cause you to focus on like what's happening in your body when, because they have these estimates. Like they'll be like, this is when you go into ketosis, and this is when
Oh,
autophagy starts. And that's not
no.
accurate. Our bodies are all
Yeah.
very, very different.
Yeah.
At what point your body shifts into ketosis is not on like a timeline that is universal to
No.
everybody. And autophagy is not something that like a light switch that goes on and off. So people start to fixate on things that are not really accurate with some of the apps. So I'm not anti-app, don't get me wrong. But I've just, over the years working with people in the intermittent fasting community, I've noticed that the apps can cause just some thinking about fasting that overcomplicates it and causes you to focus on the wrong thing.
Hmm.
For me, the boundary of an eating window is really, really important. And right now, the best tool for that is just look at the clock. Look at
Yeah,
the clock.
exactly.
Maybe put a
Yeah.
note in your phone, in your notes app of if you can't remember, write down what time you open, what time you close. I tried to get my son to make another app for me, and he won't. But
Okay.
maybe one
Okay.
day I'll make another app that helps you track your eating window instead. So
Yeah.
you don't have to make it that complicated. The apps tend to make it so complicated. And that makes people have a harder time. When we overcomplicate it, then it doesn't feel like a lifestyle anymore. And so,
No.
I want you to tweak it till it's easy and until it feels good. That being said, if
Hmm.
the app keeps you being accountable to yourself, then that's not a bad thing at all. You can
Mm.
absolutely use an app to do that. But I don't
Yeah.
have a recommendation. I haven't used any of the apps that are out there, even the one that my son made and sold, I've not used it in the format that it is now. So there are no fasting apps that I've used that are on the market.
And what's your thoughts about going in for a DEXA scan? Have you,
I mean,
is
I've
that
got no problem with that. I've never done that. But one thing to keep in
okay?
mind, remember how I talked about in the first 28 days, your body is not fat adapted yet? Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't run out and get a DEXA scan on day 1 and then go get a DEXA scan on day 28 because your body may not have flipped that metabolic switch even yet. If
Yeah.
you're going to do something like getting a DEXA scan, I would recommend getting it maybe before you start intermittent fasting and then wait like 6 months and
Mm,
then, go get another one because learning how to tap into your fat for fuel is going to take your body time. And
yeah.
so if you're too early in the process,
Yeah.
maybe you haven't burned very much fat yet because your body hadn't flipped that metabolic switch yet. So that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. And for those of you who do not know what a DEXA scan is, it's basically a very intricate way of measuring body fat and bone density and
Muscle
body
mass.
composition. Yeah.
Yep.
It's and I like the idea, especially after 55 of doing that because bone density, whole idea of osteoporosis is so important and muscle building as well. So
Let me pop into that for just a minute.
yeah.
Intermittent fasting is great for tapping into fat stores. And it's also great for not burning up your muscle like the way a traditional low
Mm,
calorie diet would because of the clean fast. You're tapping into your fat stores better. However, nothing is so magical. Nothing is so magical that your body is going to just build muscle because you're of how
yeah,
if you're sedentary,
exactly.
you're not going to build or
No.
maintain your muscle mass. You have to work your muscle. So if you were sedentary and all you did was start intermittent fasting and especially if you're older, you may not maintain the muscle mass you want to maintain, but you wouldn't be doing that with any diet or lifestyle because you've got to work your muscle. So
Yeah.
especially for women, as we're aging, we've got to work our muscle to maintain it. That's the most important lesson. Intermittent fasting, fasting clean, nourishing your body well, working your muscle. Also to maintain that muscle or to maintain your bone mass, walking is such a great
Exactly.
way. I
Yeah.
have a vibration plate that I used every day, and a vibration plate has been shown to help, maintain, your bone mass. So,
Hmm.
some of those things can make a difference. Like I don't want to have to take medication for
No.
osteoporosis. I want to walk and
Yeah.
use my muscles, and I have a
Yeah.
rebounder that I jump on and I love doing that. I have some arm weights that I use.
Hmm.
So to maintain and build muscle, you need to use your muscles.
Yeah. Okay, great. I'm glad we covered that. And let's just quickly touch on clean fasting for those who
Yes.
do not understand that. Okay.
All right. So when we're fasting, and I go into great detail on all
Yes.
of this in Fast, Feast, Repeat in the Clean Fast chapter, but we have 3 fasting goals. One of them is to keep insulin low. And you'd be like, what in the world is that? I don't have diabetes. I don't take insulin.
Hmm.
What is it? What are you talking about? Well, insulin is a hormone in our bodies. We all have it. And it is a storage hormone. So when we eat, if our body is working the way it should, and we're not type 1 diabetic, when we eat or when we drink something like that latte that you got at the drive-through, your body senses that something's coming in. Your body releases insulin in response to manage the, calories that are getting ready to come in. That's just the way it works. Here's the problem though. We have a lot of things that make our brains think that calories are coming in, but then they actually don't come in. For example, a diet soda, right? Or even like a fat-free, sugar-free latte. You might be like, oh, this is so good for me. It's fat-free, it's sugar-free, it's very low calorie. It's not going to make me gain any weight. But that taste of that sweetness is on your tongue. Your brain says, "Ooh, we know what sweetness is." Because in nature, sweetness is fruit or honey or something like that that is going to raise your blood sugar. So your brain anticipates that your blood sugar is about to go up based on the message from your tongue. It's called the cephalic phase insulin response. Your brain doesn't know that's a Diet Coke that was engineered in a lab to have 0 calories. Your brain just says, oh, blood sugar is about to go up. I know what sweetness is. So your pancreas pumps out some insulin. And insulin lowers your blood sugar, which is what it's designed to do. Now, if you're fasting, we don't want our blood sugar to crash down to the point that we're now shaky and feeling yucky. However, if you've got really high blood sugar, you might not feel it. That doesn't mean it's not happening. But my point is from before when I said that insulin is a storage hormone, if you've got high levels of insulin, it's what we call anti-lipolytic. Lipolysis is fat burning, basically. And so if your levels of insulin are really, really high, you're not going to be able to tap into your fat stores very well. So that diet soda you've been sipping on all day long because you think that it's got 0 calories, so it's helping you diet, it's actually causing your pancreas to release insulin constantly, looking, for that sugar that isn't actually coming in. And it's really confusing your body in many, many ways. So that's goal number 1, keep your insulin low. And to do that, you avoid anything that's going to be sweet or food-like, make your body think food is coming in. That would also include things like, nut pods that you put in your coffee that might be like made out of almond. Your body tastes that and think, oh, food's coming in. Mm-hmm. You want to avoid adding anything in your water that's going to make it taste food-like. That includes lemon, apple cider vinegar, anything like cinnamon in your coffee. No. Artificial sweeteners, artificial flavors. So anything that's going to make your brain think that food or sweetness is coming in, avoid that. So, you can stick. Go ahead.
I find that really amazing too, though. Like, let's there are some foods that have little to almost, zero insulin like response. Like, let's say you decided to just eat like a few walnuts or a piece of steak or something like that.
Well, that's not the only fasting goal, right? Obviously eating steak might not cause a huge insulin response. However, you would be wrong because there's something called the insulin index, and meat actually does stimulate an insulin response. So if someone has told you meat does not cause your body to release insulin, they're not correct. What is less likely to cause your body to release insulin is really, really super high fat foods like butter, for example, although dairy does cause an insulin response. So, maybe like straight up MCT oil, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
It's unflavored. But see, now we're going to get into fasting goal number 2. Insulin's not the only factor at play. We also, fasting goal 2 is we want to tap into our stored fat for fuel.
Right.
Like I could literally sip on, coconut oil and MCT oil and butter and coffee all day long, and maybe my insulin would barely budge. I'm not saying that it wouldn't, because obviously it might, especially with something like butter. But we want to tap into our stored fat for fuel. And if you're putting in lots of fat, you're not going to tap into your stored fat for fuel. So you're actually not making it easier for yourself. We don't want to just burn fat. We want to burn our own stored fat. Exactly. We don't want to just have ketones.
Yeah.
If you drink a lot of bulletproof coffee, you might make a ton of ketones, more than you would make if you were just fasting clean. But the goal is, unless you're trying to reverse epilepsy or something, your goal is not to have so many ketones in your body from what you're putting in. You want the process of your body making ketones from what's already on hand. We want our liver to have to go through the glycogen that's already stored there, because the process of your liver clearing out the glycogen for fuel is important. How many people do we know that have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease right now? Our liver is not designed to just have more and more go into it. We need to clear it out. So how do you clear it out? By not putting stuff in,
exactly. Yeah.
Insulin's not the only player.
No, you're right. Like it is intricate, and we can't lose that fact. I mean, I love and see, this is like a great argument for intermittent fasting, is just like, we're simplifying something that's actually very, very complicated.
So
And
complicated.
yeah. And yeah, I love that.
And
So,
let me share fasting goal number 3, the clean
oh,
fasting goal
sorry.
number 3. We
Yeah.
want to have increased autophagy. And autophagy is our body's cellular cleanup. The Nobel
Mhm.
Prize in Medicine in 2016 was related to autophagy research. And guess what is amazing for increasing autophagy? Fasting. It's not the only thing that increases autophagy, but it's one of the most powerful things because your body has time to go clean up. Well, what halts autophagy or turns it way, 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 way down? Eating. Also
Mhm.
protein. So if you're like
Mhm.
drinking a pre-workout that's got, amino acids in it, your
Mhm.
body can recycle the amino acids that are already in there. You don't need to take some in before you're working out. Bone
Mhm.
broth, that might seem like fasting. And someone might actually
Mhm.
say, I'm doing a bone broth fast, but it's not a fast. You're taking in protein. If you want to have increased autophagy, you don't want to take in any
Mhm.
kind of food or protein. So, what can you have while fasting? If you're
Mhm.
fasting clean, plain water, no flavors or anything to make it zingy.
Yeah.
If you want it to be zingy, have plain sparkling water. The bubbles are zingy, but you
Mhm.
don't want it to be flavored at all. Not lemon, not lime, not all those millions of flavors. Avoid them all. Black coffee, not flavored coffee. You don't want hazelnut. You don't want
Mhm.
vanilla. You want it to be just plain.
Mhm.
Plain tea. And when I say tea, I literally mean tea. Because if you go down the tea aisle, 90%, I don't know, I just made that number up, but maybe 99% of what's on the tea aisle is not actually tea. It's like chamomile and, raspberry hibiscus. That's not tea. That is a flavored product that is made. Maybe it's made from, plants. Maybe it's got healing benefits, but it's not part of a clean fast because, chamomile has that sweetness to it. The only flavor that does not stimulate an insulin response is a bitter flavor profile. That's why
Mhm.
black coffee and plain tea are okay.
Mhm.
Black coffee also stimulates autophagy, as does tea. So stick to black tea, green tea, actual
Mhm.
tea.
Yeah.
Um, and it's the fast is not supposed to be a flavor sensation. Unfortunately, we've been trained by marketing to think we must have something going in our mouths at all time for entertainment. I was an elementary teacher for 28 years. I watched kids in my classroom. I retired in 2018, but towards the end of my career, we realized, hydration is good. It's good for kids to have access to water. So we allowed them to have water bottles at their desks. Well, guess what? They started doing water enhancers. Nobody had plain water inside that water bottle. All these children had flavored water enhanced water. And so just think of what that's doing. They are
Jeez.
constantly stimulating that insulin response from the cephalic phase insulin respond all the time, and we're setting them up for having insulin resistance by what they're having during the day.
That's
I really
crazy.
think that the change in beverages
Yeah.
really
Mhm.
go along with the obesity epidemic. If we just changed for the whole world, if all we did was say, unless you're having a meal, only drink black coffee, plain tea, plain water, no flavors, like literally for the whole world, no diet sodas, no more
Yeah.
of these flavored things. If the whole world stopped with the lattes, I think we would see a major change in the obesity epidemic immediately because
That's a great point. You're right. You're 100% right. Yeah. Yeah.
we're beveraging ourselves into it. And it all has that halo of diet because it's like, well, this is 0 calorie flavored water. This is a 0 calorie diet soda. And, what's it doing in our bodies? And everyone, seems like, and I say everyone, obviously exaggerating broad, but almost everyone around you is going to be insulin resistant or heading towards type 2 diabetes. Why is that? And I
Yeah.
really think it's what we're drinking.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. And again, as I reflect back to Europe too, it's like no one's walking around with this huge vat of water either. Like, I mean, and if you order water, like let's say you order a coffee and you order water, it comes, it's so funny. It almost comes in a little juice glass. Like,
Yeah.
like everything is just so oversized here. It's
Mhm.
it's incredible. But okay, so let's get, and thanks for that review. That was perfect. So if we were reviewing wait, let's just review again. So it's the insulin response, it's the
Tap into
autophagy.
stored fat for fuel, and
Yeah,
we want to have increased autophagy. So we don't want to do anything that's going to make our body release insulin if we can help it. We
right,
don't want to do anything that's going to, be a fuel source for our body. And we
right.
also don't want to halt autophagy. And it's also really easy when you think about, like, if you were going in for fasted blood work or you were going to go
Mm.
have surgery, you
Yeah,
wouldn't sip it on some bone broth before no. You
no.
know, I was once talking to, I was getting some blood drawn for some routine blood work, and I was talking to the phlebotomist, and she was like, "Well, I only just drink coffee in the morning with milk in it," and I'm like, she's like, "That's close enough." I'm like, "It isn't, because if you were coming in for fasted blood work, would you drink coffee with milk?" She said, "No." I'm like, "Now you get it."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But actually, that's a good question. I don't think we're even allowed to have coffee before a fasted
Well,
blood
they
work.
they do tell, it depends on the blood work that you're getting. I actually would recommend, if you're going to get fasted blood work, I wouldn't have coffee before that either,
Yeah.
because coffee causes your liver to dump glycogen, which, as I said before, we want that to all
Okay.
clear out. So that's not a bad thing, but it might affect your blood sugar level. Like anyone that's
Right.
worn a CGM, you might notice that your blood sugar is steady. Then you drink some coffee and your blood sugar pops up, because that's your liver dumping the
Mm,
glycogen. And if you're, like, let's say you're having your
mm,
fasting blood sugar done,
yes.
you don't want that to happen. And
Okay.
so, but there are plenty of blood work that you're allowed to have black coffee before having, but I wouldn't
Right.
anyway.
Right.
Just
Okay,
wouldn't.
good. Yeah, I always wondered about that. So that makes
Yeah.
sense. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So, Jen, why do people step off the intermittent fasting train? Why do you think, why do people give up?
So many reasons. There's so many reasons, but you may have noticed when I said the name of my new book,
Yeah.
28-day fast start day by day, the ultimate guide for starting or restarting your intermittent fasting
Hmm.
lifestyle so it sticks. I said I would never write another intermittent fasting book a couple years ago, and then I realized, okay, we do need one, because I've been managing intermittent fasting communities. I started on Facebook. I'm no longer managing on Facebook anymore. I'm now off of Facebook. jenstevens.com/community is where you can find us. But I realized there are a lot of people that are stuck in the cycle of starting over. And, they are so hopeful. They understand all the science, and yet they are continually stopping and starting. And so, we have a phrase, just stop stopping, but that can be easier said than done. So why do people stop? One of the reasons is because they're not fasting clean. I hear this all the time. People will be like, "Well, I started off and I was fasting clean. And then I was like, how could it really make a difference? And then before I knew it, I was putting just a little cream in my coffee. I'm like, it doesn't matter. I was still losing weight." That's the biggest lie right there. Just because you're losing weight doesn't mean what you're doing is good for your body, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
And they're like, and then all of a sudden, I wasn't fasting anymore at all. Of course, I would say once you're putting the cream in your coffee, you're not fasting
Yeah.
anymore. That's just like a lie we tell ourselves because we're used to calories in, calories out. What can a little cream matter? Well, it can matter a whole lot. Cream is nature's perfect food for building a mammal baby. It's clearly not
Yeah.
fasting, but it's that slippery slope of no longer fasting clean. And that makes it harder, because now you're going to be hungry. Now you're white knuckling it. So not fasting clean and letting that slippery slope, oh, well, now I'm just drinking a little bubbly flavored water. And then all of a sudden now fasting is hard, and then you're eating because you're starving. So that slippery slope of not fasting clean is one of the main things that gets people. Another thing that happens is results are not dramatic and spectacular like the tabloids suggest dieting should be. We all should lose 100 pounds by Memorial Day. And according to the tabloids, that's what happens. But that is actually not what happens in real life. Our body cannot lose stored fat quickly. If you weigh yourself and then 1 week later you're down 10 pounds, you did not lose 10 pounds of fat. You didn't. Our
No.
bodies don't lose fat that quickly. Even if you fasted completely, which I do not recommend, please don't fast for a week. But even if you fasted completely for a week, our bodies can't lose fat quickly. We lose fluid quickly. We also retain fluid quickly. And
Mhm.
so any quick up or downs are not fat loss. But people get caught up in this weight loss is not fast enough. So I'm going to go get the injections my friend is getting. She's losing weight really, really fast. Or I'm going to join this plan where I'm eating, 6 times a day and my friend is selling it and she's lost 30 pounds and I want to do that because she's losing faster than me. And so we're very much, we want those fast results. And so, a pound a week, even a half a pound a week, if you lose a half a pound to a pound a week, you're going to get where you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
It might not be exciting, but it will be once you get there,
Mm-hmm.
So you just have to be patient with it. So that's another reason people quit. One of my best strategies, first of all, don't weigh at all for the first 28 days, but after that, weigh daily and have some sort of a way to know what your overall trend is doing. That is what saved my sanity. And the only time I didn't quit intermittent fasting, because I used to dabble in it back from 2009 to 2014, and I would always quit. Finally, when I started in 2014, I weighed daily, once a week, calculated my weekly average. I ignored the fluctuations from day to day completely. And I only looked at what my weekly average trend was doing. It went down, 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 down. Now, if I had just been weighing once a week, like I have all my data from back then, and I have actually my data chart in Fast Feast Repeat. You can look at it. They're actually, if I was only weighing on Friday, there was one week where my Friday to Friday weight actually went up. I weighed more on Friday than I weighed a week before.
Mm-hmm.
However, my weekly average was still down. So having an eye on what your trend is doing is so very powerful, because even if you're losing slowly a half a pound to a pound a week, that is just the right pace for fat loss. And so you can also use apps like Happy Scale is an app that is for iPhone that will show you your trend. Also, there's one for Android. I think it's called Libra. You need to know what your overall trend is doing. And the other reason people will stop with fasting is the whole idea of stress and comfort eating. We have so many habits that we developed as children, we've our whole lives, we've gone to, maybe whenever you were sad, your mom gave you cookies because she loved you and she wanted you to feel better. And so now as an adult, you've got that internalized. And so when you're having a stressful day, you're like, okay, cookies are going to make it better, because you learn that's wired in your brain from an early age. And so in a stressful time, people can just be like, I need to eat to feel better. And you actually realize pretty quickly that eating like that, you're not feeling better. It actually might just give you like a temporary, boost in your brain, but then you're like feeling guilty and you're feeling worse. And so it's making you not feel better overall.
No.
So instead of turning to food for comfort, find new self-care routines that are actually productive. And, you can care for yourself and soothe yourself in a way that does not involve, now I'm going to quit intermittent fasting. I went through some stressful times. Now I need to eat all day. You really don't, because that's not helping your body. If food is not the problem, food is not the solution either. So it's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
I actually think when you're going through something stressful, that's the time to take even better care of your body and realize how precious your body is. So if you can flip, a lot of it's mental. If you just flip that around, like, I need to stop fasting because I need to, eat these foods that make me feel better. No, say I need to keep doing intermittent fasting because I know that's good for my body and I'm taking care of myself.
No, 100%. Like I noticed that with myself too. It's sort of like when I was eating lunch before, it wasn't because I was actually hungry. It was because of mental fatigue. So it was just taking a break from what I was doing, and maybe going out in nature and doing something different and clearing my mind of all the thoughts that allowed. And then it's like, I'm not even hungry, it's so, it's all the, like you mentioned it before, it's all the stories, it's all the lies that we're telling us. It's really comes, I think, like so much of my work too comes down to belief systems. And
so that's it. That's what it is. And like I've had people say to me, I can't give up cream in my coffee because that's truly the only thing about my day that I enjoy. I'm like, well, no, I mean, I'm not laughing at that, because people really have that story in their head. And I'm like, then you now know it's time to find something else, because, that is not helping you reach your health and wellness goals that you want. And giving up the
Oh,
cream in the coffee or the creamer or the whatever it is they're putting in there to make it creamy. That creamy sweetness is really an ingrained
oh, so
mind
ingrained.
thing.
Yeah.
It's that emotional thing. Like I'm having my black coffee and I
Yeah.
wake up every morning and I go sit on my porch and I drink it and it makes me feel good and calm and
Mm,
happy. And it's not a cup of sadness. It's, your taste
no.
buds will change and then you will look forward to the black coffee every bit as much as you looked forward to that creamy coffee.
Well, exactly. And it's like you mentioned the other important, like bitter foods are it's so important for the
Yeah.
body. And I think I think it's so ironic that people take a bitter food like coffee and they make it unbitter.
Yeah.
They take all the goodness away from it. But having our taste buds adapt to more and more and more bitter foods in our diet is super,
Oh,
super important.
it's transformational and taste buds change. So
They do.
if you hate the smell of coffee, you're probably never going to like black coffee. Just don't drink coffee. Drink water. You'll be fine. But if
Right.
you love the smell of coffee
Hmm.
and you love your hot milkshake, I like to call it, which is like your coffee milkshake that you're used to. If you love that, you can love black coffee. It might take you 2 weeks of holding your nose and getting your taste buds to adjust, but they
Hmm.
will. And then one day you'll be like me and
Hmm.
your eating window will be open and you'll be like, I'm going to try some creamy coffee because my window is open. And you'll taste it and you'll think, ooh, this is not as good as I remembered. And then you'll realize
Hmm.
you prefer it black. But like you said, it opens up your palate to eating other bitter foods. Like I now
Hmm.
love Brussels sprouts and
Mm.
arugula
Yes.
and bitter vegetables that I would not have eaten when I
Mhm.
had the Americanized palate of, salt, sugar, fat, whatever, and I just needed
Exactly.
everything to be creamy and sweetened and whatever. My palate is completely different now.
Yeah. 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 So, I mean, we didn't even go into all the, metabolic advantages of
Yeah.
intermittent
It would take too
fasting.
long. Fast
No,
Feast Repeat's like 14 hours long or audio. Maybe it's 11. I can't remember. It's a lot of hours. So
yes,
we don't have
yes.
enough hours to go into all of it.
So I mean, I think that's a great place to start as well because Jen has so much great literature out there about it. So she also hosts another podcast with, you have a co-host Sherry,
I do.
and
Sherry.
and
And
in
look
that,
for this. This is my
yes,
book, Fast
yes,
Feast Repeat, but I have two podcasts. One of them is Intermittent Fasting Stories, but
mm-hmm,
this one, the podcast is actually called Fast Feast Repeat as well with co-host Sherry Bullock. We just started that
mm-hmm,
one recently,
mm-hmm,
and we answer listener questions. We share listener successes. We share the tweak of the week. We share
yeah.
resources. We are really enjoying doing that podcast, and I'm enjoying working with Sherry because we don't always have the same exact ideas, which I think is great in a co-host, but she works in healthcare. So she knows things I don't know.
Right.
I have different strengths than she does. So you can hear both of our perspectives. I think we mesh really, really well.
Yeah, you do. And I also noticed that you different foods are better for
Yeah.
yourselves as well. That's the other thing, guys. Like don't think that, um like like protein is better or carbohydrates are better
Right.
and
Yeah.
yeah,
I
that's
could
what I
talk about that for hours. If you
yes.
read a diet book, I'm just going to tell you this. This is what I've learned. And I'm also in a community that's full of health and wellness writers and influencers. And I've realized every single diet book that tells you what to eat is based on what that particular author feels best eating. So you have permission to ignore every dietary recommendation from people outside of yourself and listen to what makes you feel your best. I feel better with a whole food, plant based way of eating, lots of beans, whole grains. I feel great that way. I realized that too much meat, eggs, and dairy makes me feel sluggish. But Sherry, on the other hand, she doesn't feel full and satisfied unless she has plenty of meat. She needs meat protein. It makes me go to sleep. I need, beans and that sort of thing. And it's realizing, thanks to bioindividuality, you're not all the same. So if someone tells you you must eat, this much meat every day and you have to force your body to get this much protein or whatever, you don't have to listen to that, because, you can trust how you feel. If you feel strong and you have endurance and energy and you're able to build muscle through activity and you feel amazing and you're sleeping well, that's what you need to know. If you start feeling worse and worse and worse over time and you're sluggish, that's not a good sign. You can trust yourself.
It's so true. Yeah, no, and thanks for reminding everybody about that. I realized that a while ago too. Mm-hmm. It's just because we're told like so many different things. After a while you're going, okay, what the heck is going on? And then you realize, oh, that worked for them. It's like,
Sherry just came and visited, and she was here for like 5 days for her birthday and visiting. Mm-hmm. We ate out a lot, but it was funny. The last night that we ate out before she went home, we went to a restaurant and we ordered like a bunch of appetizers, and like everything I ordered was like carby, plant-based, kind of vegetable kind of stuff. And she's over there, she ordered like some meat or something. And it's like we each were gravitating towards what we needed. And it was really, really funny just to watch. And but we know what makes us feel good. And she couldn't eat the way I ate and feel her best. I couldn't eat the way she eats and feel my best. And it's, understanding that the ultimate expert on your body is yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for giving us that permission.
Yes, so, that's what it is. It's permission. You have permission to figure it out.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, anyone out there, I mean, honestly, type in Gin, and that's Jen, Gin. It's short for Virginia. I think it's
right.
so cool. Honestly, just type in Google search Gin intermittent fasting, and there's going to be a plethora of information out there. I've read or listened to all your books, and I'm a huge fan of you and the work you do. So thank you so much again, and I hope to have you back soon.
Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
Okay, everyone else, have a great week. Bye-bye. Thanks once again for joining me on another great episode of I Think I Can podcast. If you liked it, please subscribe below so you don't miss out on any future episodes. And until next week, treat each day like it was your last, because each new day is a privilege that we shan't take for granted. Cheers and have a great week. Bye-bye.